Hello everyone, welcome back to Edumon Tutorials. This is Karthik, the instructor for Object-Oriented Programming. Currently we are dealing with the second chapter of this subject. In the previous lectures we have completed the first and second parts of this chapter, and in this video we will be completing the functions part. So we will be looking at what are function prototypes, function components, returning values from functions, actual and formal arguments or parameters, and parameter passing methods, and we'll learn a little about inline functions. So what is a function? A function is basically a set of statements which performs a particular task. So in programming, functions refers to a group of statement code to perform a particular task. There are two types of functions. First one is the library function, and second one is the user-defined function. Library function. Library functions are built-in functions in C++ programming. Programmers can use library function by invoking the function directly. They need not write it themselves. To use a library function, we need to import the header file in which the particular function is located. For example, square root library function is invoked to calculate the square root of a number. The name of the function is sqrt, followed by parenthesis, in which we'll be giving the value inputs. User-defined function. Programmer to define their own function. That means the programmer who will be writing the code will define these functions. A user-defined function code to perform a specific task as per given a function name or identifier. That means we, the user who will be using the program, will be giving that particular function which will be writing a specific name which is used to identify it. When the function is invoked from any part of the program, it all executes the code defined in the body of the function. That means that whenever we call this particular function name, then the code which is inside this function will be executed. User-defined workflow. So now basically here void, this void defines that the return type is of void type, and then we have the function name, followed by a pair of parentheses, and then opening curly brace and closing curly braces. So the starting point of the program execution is the main function. We'll be writing all the statements required. And whenever we want to run these particular statements or lines of code, what we'll be doing is we'll be directly calling the function name, followed by brackets, and then a semicolon. So at this time, the statements which are inside this function will be executed. Function prototype. A function prototype is a declaration of the function that tells the program about the type of the value returned by the function and the number and type of arguments. The prototype declaration looks just like a function definition except that it has no body. That means function prototype is basically the first line of the function which you will be writing. A function prototype has the following parts: return type, name of the function, and argument list. Now let's look at an example. Here we have int sum, int n1, int n2. This is the function prototype. So here we can see that the return type is of integer, and then the name of the function is sum, and the arguments are int n1 and int n2. Note: every function prototype is followed by a semicolon. A function declaration can skip the argument names, but a function definition cannot, because the function definition gives the compiler a brief idea about the parameters which we will be using and the type of the parameters. This is the function definition. The general form of a function definition is as follows. So first we'll be having the return type of the function, and then the function name, and then the parameters list. And then we'll have an opening curly brace and a closing curly brace, and in between them we'll be having the body of the function. The return type specifies the type of the value that the return statement of the function returns. If no type is specified, the compiler assumes that the function returns an integer value. A function may be without any parameters, in which case the parameter list is empty. Now this is the example for calculating the greatest common divisor. So here we have the return type as integer, and the two arguments are int n1 and int n2. Here this is the temporary variable of type integer. So while n2, that is until the value of n2 will not be equal to 0, this loop will be running, and then temp is equal to n2, and then n2 is equals to n1 modular n2, and then n1 is equals to temp. So basically we are swapping and at the same time calculating the modularity, and we'll be returning n1. You can just work on this code. This will be giving the greatest common divisor. Actual parameters. So basically parameters are those variables which will be passing into the body of a function. So to pass the variables directly into the body of the function, we will be using the braces. The parameters used in the function call are called actual parameters. These are the actual values that are passed to the function. The actual parameters may be in the form of constants or variables. The data types of actual parameters must match with the corresponding data types of the formal parameters or variables in the function definition. Formal parameters. The parameters used in the header of a function definition are called as formal parameters of that function. These parameters are used to receive values from the calling function. They are treated as local variables of a function in which they are used in the function header. So basically, whenever a function is called, in the internal process we'll be having an activation record created. So in that activation record, on a stack, all the variables in this particular function will be assigned, and once the function is completed, that is the runtime of the function is done, this activation record gets cleared. So this is the example. Here we have int main, add 10, 20 and then return 0. So this function, what it does is, it will be returning nothing, so we will have it as void, and then the name of the function is add. Here we will be having int num1 and int num2. So these both parameters which actually exist in the function definition are called as formal parameters, and those which are passed while calling the function are called actual parameters, and actual parameters exist only in the main function. So parameters passing method. A function B is called by another function A. In this case, A is called the caller function, that is, this is the caller function, and B is called the call function or callee function. So B is the callee function. The arguments which A sends to B are called as actual arguments, and the parameters of B are called formal arguments. We have seen this just now. Now coming to the types of parameter passing methods. There are of two types: pass by reference and pass by value. Pass by value. This method uses inward semantics. The actual parameter in the function call is copied into the formal parameters in the function. Changes made to the formal parameters aren't reflected in the actual parameter. Now let's look at this example. Geek func of val1, val2, and this is a statement calling function, geek function. Initially value of a is 10 and value of 2 is 12. And now when we pass this into the actual body of the function, so these are the formal parameters, the value of the actual parameters are being copied into the formal parameters. So this is the call by value procedure. Now this is an example. So here we have int main, int z is equal to addition of 5, 3. And now once the compiler meets this statement, it will identify the addition as a function name, and it will check in its activation record if there exists any name with function addition. So yeah, there exists a function which returns an integer type and has the name addition. Int a, int b are the parameters. So here it will create a temporary variable which is called r, and r will be equal to the sum of a and b, and then r will be returned. So this return statement sends the value of r to the function, and that will be assigned to z. So finally see out the result is z, that is 5 plus 3, 8. Now pass by reference. In pass by value we have seen that the changes which are made in the body of the function doesn't reflect in the main function. But by using pass by reference, the changes made in the body of the function will be reflected in the variables of the main function. This technique uses in or out mode semantics. A pointer to the actual parameters is put in the formal parameter. Any changes made to the formal parameter will reflect in the actual parameter. Use this method if the actual parameters need to be changed. C++ arrays are always passed by reference without using an address operator. Other data types need an address operator before the formal parameter. Now call by reference. So here we can see that in the void main, int n is equals to 10, and we have this function called func to address of 10. So basically what will be happening is this function name will be checked against in the activation record, and there exists a function name with func which returns void type. So func of int pointer address. So what we'll be doing is, when we'll be passing this address is pointed using this pointer variable. And now at this point we are dereferencing it and setting its value as 20. and after the end of the function, the value of n is printed. So here we can see that initially n has a value of 10, then using its address, we've changed it to 20 indirectly. Pass by constant reference. Like this is similar to pass by reference, but the parameter does not change. Place const in front of the type in the formal parameter list. This is basically the way you declare the variable name. And then const can also be used with arrays that are formal parameters. If the function should only access but not change a parameter, using const enforces it's not changing. That means using const keyword, you can make sure that the value of the variable in that particular function will never change. So this is the example. Here we can see that in the function prototype, void is the return type, test is the name of the function, const int address of a. We are pointing to the address of a. But what we are doing in the function is that we are incrementing its address. And since a is of constant type, when we try to modify it, this might be a plus plus or a minus minus or anything as such. In that case, we'll be thrown an error. That's because we cannot change its value. So, inline function. If a function is inline, the compiler places a copy of the code of that function at each point where the function is called at compile time. So basically, for a function call, the control, that is the compiler, will shift its address position from a particular position to another position where that function resides. Whereas in inline functions, what will be happening is that the function code, that is the block of statements inside that particular function, those lines of code will be pasted in the main function. To inline a function, place the keyword inline before the function name and define the function before any calls are made to that function. So the best practice is that you define this inline function above the main function. The compiler can ignore the inline qualifier in case the defined function is more than a line. A function definition in a class definition is an inline function definition even without the use of the inline specifier. Basically, this is used for the getter and setter methods which we'll be using to set in the variables of a class function. And this is the example. So here we can see that we declared an inline function which returns a type of integer and has the name max, which takes in two parameters, int x and int y, and will be returning based on the ternary condition or the conditional operator statement. It says if x is greater than y, then return x, else return y. Now let's look at the main function of the program. Here we have int main, cout max of 20, 10. Here x is 20 and y is 10. Yeah, 20 is greater than 10. So here we'll be getting the value as 20. Similarly for max of 0, 200. Here we'll be getting the maximum value 200. Similarly max of 100, 1010. And here we'll be getting the value as 1010. So that's it guys. This brings us to the end of the second chapter. Hope you liked it. Thank you.